Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host. I am grateful to be with you today. I am highly caffeinated. Let's go. That is typically how the day's been going these days. Just caffeinate, workout, and then work, and then caffeinate and work, then go to bed. That's been the sum of my days for quite some time. It has been an interesting roller coaster to say the least. And man, it's been awesome. And I've loved every second of it. I love the work. I love my mic keeps on moving around on me. I love the hustle. I love the conversations. I love the relationships. It is amazing how far you will get when you use other people's network. Trying to expand out from who you know to who do they know and who do you need to know, and find people. We've had so many people come out of the woodworks because we've expanded, we've grown, and I've always tried to use networking, but now our network is expanding out of state, out of country, and trying to just build. But in this thing of networking, communication is key. It's huge. That is an underlining premise, an underlining idea on this entire podcast series, beginning to end. It's communication. It is, how do you communicate with another person? My business partner and I had some funny, interesting conversations over the last few days. It really all started a couple days ago, and I was sitting there. I was with my sons. They were in the pool, and I was watching them while they were swimming in our neighborhood HOA pool. And they love it. And it was just them there, and I was doing some calls and some work while they were playing. And my business partner and I, we kept going back and forth. I was trying to explain a situation, a conversation, and how to move forward. He was trying to explain how to move forward. And we started to get somewhat frustrated with each other because we just simply were not communicating well. We were not understanding what we were trying to say to each other. Sound familiar? Have you had this? I'm sure you have. We've all had this situation, whether it be your spouse, your business partner, your friend, the waitress at the restaurant, whatever it might be. We've all had this situation where you're trying to explain something and it's just not landing. And then finally, we kind of just told each other to shut up, pause, and reword in a different way what you're trying to say. At the end of the day, we were saying the same thing in a different fashion, or in layman's terms, we were saying the same thing in different languages. How often do you do that? How often are you speaking a different language from somebody else? So what you were trying to say, or this thought you were trying to convey, is not landing or being reciprocated. This idea of speaking in somebody else's language is key. It is huge. It is everything. Because in order for somebody to understand you, you must speak in a way that they understand. Kind of makes sense, right? It's pretty basic, pretty duh. But it is so missed so often. And I've heard this statement or this idea that I'm going to speak the way I speak, and either you understand me or you don't. Or I'm going to speak in my own way because that's me and that's my personality. And if you don't accept me for me, then I don't want to deal with you. Well, that's fine and dandy, but if you want to work with more people and have better relationships than you currently have, you must speak in a way that somebody receives. Case in point, we've got clients and business associates and business partners to which I can be quite candid, quite direct, quite blunt, and kind of bullish in my approach. I have others where I must be quite I must be polished and I must be reserved and not as direct, but more matter of fact or roundabout. I guess not matter of fact, but roundabout. I have some clients and partnerships and relationships to where I could be more on a crude side or less PC, right? Less business appropriate. And then I have other ones where I must be very appropriate and very clear and very cut, clean, and dry. Then I've got some that must be very business focused, while others must be more religious focused. I want you to take this idea of listening to how somebody speaks and then reciprocating and reflecting that same style back to them and see how it lands. If this person you're talking to is very religious centered in their vocabulary, reflect that back and see how they receive it. If somebody's very blunt, be blunt back. See how they receive it. If somebody's very vulgar, be vulgar back in as much as you can be, right? There's a limit to all of these things. There is a line. You can go too much in any which way. And you can definitely do all of this around who you are. This is not to say put on a mask, put on a facade, and fake something. This is still being you with a little bit of a filter on it, a little bit of a lens shift. Because just like this camera right here on YouTube, different lenses present different perspectives, different opportunities. Different things can be done and mastered with certain lenses over others. Doesn't mean that one lens doesn't work and one does. They both work. One just works better. There are better ways to communicate the ideas that you have with specific people. And understanding this, it starts with you. How do you receive? How do you understand? How are you reciprocating to yourself? How are you talking to yourself? And as you have these conversations and pondering and thinking, I was sitting in the shower the other day, literally sitting in the shower. And my 3-year-old walks up to the glass because we've got a glass door, and he looks and he goes, "Dad, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting in the shower." I said, "Why are you sitting in the shower?" I said, "I'm thinking, buddy." He goes, "Why are you thinking?" I said, "That's how you solve problems." I'm solving problems, sitting in the shower thinking. I'm having conversations with myself and working through possible outcomes. I'm seeing if I take this path, what would it lead to? If I take this path, what could it lead to? Not would it lead to, could it lead to? And all the different avenues that could be done, and then possible outcomes, and which one is most resourceful. It's kind of like Doctor Strange when he's sitting there at the last Iron Man or the last Avengers Endgame. He's just sitting there like, and he's going through all the different variants of what could possibly happen. I do that quite regularly, and I typically do it in a cold plunge, in a shower, usually shower. I do it in a cold plunge too when I'm in the cold plunge, just to pass the time more than anything. But how important it is to curate the message you are trying to deliver. It's kind of like wrapping up a package in a very specific way and delivering said package in a specific, intentional way. When you speak, it matters. I have the blessed opportunity to help people that are incarcerated. And I had a beautiful experience this last week where I was helping 55 women move from where they are to where they want to go. We were standing in a cell block. We had, what was that, 4 or 5 jail cells each side. So I think it holds 16, 20 people. And then showers and the eagle's nest. And as you can imagine, sitting inside of a prison, teaching these 55 women. And it was obvious those that have practiced relaying a message and those that haven't. I have been asked more times than I can count, how are you so polished when you deliver things? Especially things that aren't rehearsed. Whatever I'm doing, just pulling it off of the cuff. I have very few, as much as I can try, filler words like, yeah. I attempt to use silence instead of those filler words. That's a great replacement, by the way. That's a fantastic hack. Instead of saying like, just use silence. Silence is your friend. But I'm speaking to these women and they reciprocate and they're talking to me. Like this happened and like that happened and like then this happened, like that took place and like this thing took place, and here I am. As I'm sitting, I'm not catching as much of the story because it's broken up. They weren't sending to me a message to which I could best understand, and so I had to interpret. Just like languages, there are a few things. I know a little bit of Spanish, not much, but if you're talking to me, I could probably discern what you were trying to say with the few words in there. That is such a similar thing when you're talking to somebody that is not speaking your same language by way of communication style. They're getting bits and pieces, but they're not getting the full story in its full spectrum in everything you were trying to deliver because it wasn't intentionally curated for their ear holes. Think about that. When you have your next conversation, so you're listening to this podcast right now, the next conversation you have, I want you to try this. I want you to practice this. I want you to listen for what they say and how they say it. If they're using a bunch of filler words, don't do that back. Don't mock, don't mirror per se, but listen to the words they use. If they are using words of kinesthetics, so feel, I feel like this is soft, this is hard, or they use sight, this is bright, this is colorful, this is dark. If they use sound, auditory, that's noisy, that's loud, that sounds great. You ever heard that statement? That sounds great. Taste, this is sweet, this is bitter, this is, what's another word for taste? Or I smell something fishy. You heard that statement? I like the way that smells. People will use these trigger words to tell you in which ways, by way of modalities, they understand. You speak in their modality, you speak in their language, you speak in the way they understand, you will relay a message better, faster, clearer than you could any other way. And fun fact, if you speak in a way that somebody understands and you use their name, those two hand in hand, you will encourage them to like you. Amazing, right? You won't make them like you. Can't make anybody like you. You can encourage them to like you. And people liking you means they will do things with you, for you, around you. They want to be around you. You attract more people, and the more people you attract, the more you can get done. Because at the very beginning, we talked about using other people's network. That's how you get that. It's not trickery. It's not bribery. It's understanding psychology and utilizing it for the benefit of the whole. Just taking things because you want it, that's kind of a douche move. But doing things of mutual benefit, being there to help them. And I'll end this podcast with this statement. I have a really good friend, and we don't really talk a lot of business. We do talk business. We're both business owners, so most of our conversations are around business. But he and I have a hobby together. We mountain bike. But when we first met a few years ago, we met each other on social, and I said, let's meet up. Let's connect. He said, cool, come down to my office. And while I was on my way down, he said, what is the purpose of the meeting so I can prepare for this meeting? What are you coming for? What are you hoping to get out of it? What conversations are you looking to have? What business are you in that I can help with, or mentoring, or what are you looking for? And I responded back with, nothing. I'm looking to see if I like you as a human. And if I like you as a human, that we could become friends. I'm looking for a relationship. And he responded back with, that's all right, cool. Here we are years later, and he is a bankable friend. We mountain bike together. We've hung out on more times than I can count. And he's given me so many doors and opportunities to which I can move my needle and I his. But that's all because I spoke his language. He is a relationship-based person. So that is what I want to leave with you. Curate your message to others. Speak in the language to which they hear. whether that be the tonality, the pace, the volume, the topic, religious versus business, vulgar versus clean, and their modalities. If they speak by way of referencing sight, sound, taste, smell, feel, analytical, which is numbers. It's auditory digital, by the way, not analytical, but people call it analytical too. Auditory digital. It's your sixth sense. So I've kind of packed this one in with a lot of information, but you do have a task to do. Your next conversation, try this. Listen for it. Use intentional vocabulary and delivery for what you're trying to say, and see how it is interpreted different from previous times. You can find me on socials, Mr. Brad Draper. Have this conversation with your friends and your family. I'm grateful for you. Like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.